Well, good morning from Helena, Montana. Another beautiful day. Helena, Montana is where Gary Cooper lived. He figures in that really nice poster that the Polish resistance to the communists had called Solidarity, one of my favorite posters, but that comes from High Noon. And High Noon, the movie, it's classic, kind of tells us where we are right now in this country with regard to the Trump administration. Yesterday, when they had that confrontation in the Oval Office, when he and Vice President Vance did their premeditated number on President Zelensky, it was an embarrassment to say the least. But it also signaled a big turn. It's time for us to really figure out what we're going to do about this guy. President Trump is 1 month older than I am, and which means we're both 78. And I can tell you from personal experience, he's not going to be around much longer. And what we're dealing with is not one man. We're talking about quite a conglomeration of people and money, connections, policies, different think tanks, I guess you'd call them, different religious views that are kind of off the wall, frankly, but each to their own. We're dealing with quite a complex, and if we're going to defeat them, we have to get organized. And the best defense is an offense. And I believe that the best offense that we can put together is an association of people and organizations that want to use nonviolence, not be passive, but use nonviolence to defeat these people. And it's going to be a long process. Tonight here in Helena is Montana's annual Mansfield-Metcalf dinner. It's named after Senator Mike Mansfield and Senator Lee Metcalf. I had the good fortune in my life to meet with both men and have good heart-to-heart conversations with each one of them. They were really quite oriented toward public service. I met Senator Metcalf when I was Speaker of the House of Representatives here in Montana back in 1977, and he was here just resting, and I won't go through the whole conversation, but it was really very memorable. And he died shortly after that from complications that he incurred when he was in World War II. But he died at 66. And one of the things about him that two things. One is he really was oriented toward doing things that were good for our country over the long run. He worked on things that people here probably could care less about. The law of the sea. He was behind a lot of the wilderness acts, which I think has made Montana and the country a better place. But it's not the kind of thing that gets you a lot of votes. But he was a public lands advocate, and that'd be the extreme opposite of somebody that wants to make money off of raping and scraping or selling off public lands. Senator, I was down to see him because I was asking him to come up and speak to the House of Representatives, which he did. Then I met Senator Mansfield. We had a really good talk. I was back in the Pentagon as a colonel working for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on the Joint Staff. And I thought, well, people have told me we should talk, myself and Mansfield, but I had never met him. So I called over to his office. At that time, he was through being a senator, through being an ambassador, and he was working for Goldman Sachs, and he was on the top floor of a 11-story office building across from the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue. And the old post office later became the Trump Hotel. But anyhow, it was 1 month before the attacks of 9/11, which were pretty unforgettable of their own, but we didn't know that was going to happen. And I went over to see him. I wore my uniform, and he was most respectful to me as a service member. And we had a really, really good talk. And the thing about Mansfield is when I was a kid, I had made some decisions that would cause me to go off to college because of things that he had done as a congressman. And I just was really impressed by him. And during our conversation, I said to him, you know, I'm just tickled to be sitting here. He'd poured coffee for the two of us, and we were sitting on a couch alongside of each other, visiting in a really gentle and civil fashion. And I said, I'm really glad to be here visiting with you. I'm just tickled. He says, well, I'm tickled too. And then I told him I'd read about him in the book at that time, The Ugly American, about this congressman that really had made an effort to learn about foreign countries in the Asian area. And he was an Asia history professor. And I said, I read that book, and that's what caused me to go to college. And he says, never read the book. And when I told him I was tickled, he said, ditto. That's what he said, ditto. He's still very terse. But when we got into our conversation, he was very, very articulate about a couple of things. One of them was being respectful to other nations. There was some riots and demonstrations going on at the time in Seattle, and he did not like that, the way that our government was setting up these discussions with foreign nations. And he thought respect was very essential. Extreme opposite from President Trump and his vice president. The other thing is, one of the things he told me was he was really concerned about young people, and that would be younger than me, I think, at the time. But he said when he was growing up, you had to take a steamer to China and then go to China and be part of it, you know, work your way, spend your whole life trying to get one thing done, one small thing. And he was bothered at the way Americans could just put $500 down, get an airplane ticket, and the next, you know, that night be in Peru or Colombia or, you know, some other place that used to be hard to get to. And he felt that we were not learning the cultures around the places that we were going to. And I was very conscious of him saying that. The other thing he said was, he was 99. He said, I'm ready to go. And his wife was getting full-time medical care, and she passed just shortly thereafter. And then when he passed 4 months later, he was buried with her at Arlington Cemetery up by President Kennedy's grave. One of the things he told me that's relevant to today is he couldn't believe that NATO had become an offensive organization. He said we put billions of dollars into it when he was in the Senate, trying to make it a defensive organization, but he felt that it was offensive. And I think the expansion of NATO, you know, everybody has something to say about it, but I'm sure it seemed like a threat to Putin over in Russia. I can see that. And I wonder if some of the expansion wasn't due to, you know, what Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex. But in any case, we are where we are. And I feel like we need to remember what these men and women did that came before us, and try to become aware of what it's like to have public servants that really care about our country. We don't have that so much now. So if you check with ChatGPT, just ask, what are the 10 top nonviolent direct actions we could take against an authoritarian or even fascist government here in the United States? They'll list them for you. If you ask them, what are the 10 top nonviolent successful direct actions in the world's history, they'll list them for you. You can do that easy enough. But really what it comes down to is applying ourselves in a steady, disciplined way. You know, it's not about guns. It's about going out of our way to get involved with who's running for office, not being spoon-fed something that's paid for and on the television, but actually trying to find out about people. And we've really got to do that down to the individual voter. And then in our different organizations, whether they're labor unions or teachers unions or environmental groups, we need to try to link up, because one group can't do this by themselves. It has to be an association of groups working together. And so we can all bring different skills to it. Now, I have no intention of running for office again, but I have run for office quite a lot. And I'm kind of like a bad penny in a lot of ways. But the last time that I ran for office, I purposefully chose to run without raising any money from somebody else, anybody else. And there's a rule with the Federal Election Commission that you can, if you don't spend more than $5,000 of your money, your own money, you don't even have to file with them. So that's what I did. I ran for office for Congress here in Montana, which is a huge state. The district is huge, eastern Montana. And I did it for $4,573.22. And I could have gone a lot farther and seen a lot more people if I hadn't run into the deer. And that, that caused me to have to put some of that $4,500 into the deductible on our car insurance. But you can see a lot of people and go to a lot of places on $5,000. But what needs to be there are the venues. The Democrats need to have a chance when they're in the primary to be seen discussing issues with each other. In our case, we only had the Montana Farmers Union. The Democratic Party didn't do that. And I think one of the advantages that the Republicans have had in Montana is when I first came back from the Pentagon, they had a big soiree over in Bozeman, and all the Republican candidates that now hold office were just getting started, and they were all debating each other, and they got good exposure. It's not bad for candidates to be in those kind of forums. And then the other thing that the party can do, I think, is use its resources and its muscle and whatever to support the free media when they try to have a forum between general election candidates. So whoever we put forward needs to be able to speak and debate issues. In my case, because the media is so fragmented right now, it's kind of on its knees because there's been such a loss of jobs of reporters and so forth, but we really need them. So when they decide to set something up, then the parties need to discipline the candidates to make sure they go and they participate. In my case, there were 2 opportunities for debates, which would have been really good for the people here in Montana. But my opponent just says, no, can't make it. And so therefore avoided making clear what his attitude was toward different issues. Those are the 2 suggestions that I can make. I think for my part, I'm not yet an old crank, but I will offer my services or whatever to whoever wants to pass messages between groups about this. But we do have to engage in nonviolent direct action across the board. And I think we can defeat these people that have just put out Project 25. Thanks.